I recognized him immediately. In front of me is my idol who comes to me in my dreams. The girl in love thought at that moment. The lady said it to herself as soon as she saw the beautiful Prince Kyle in front of her. She finally met him, but how unexpectedly the girl, not controlling her emotions, charged at the guy with a slap. What? What just happened? I slapped my precious kitten, Kyle? Why? Why is my hand moving on its own? There was no way the girl could understand. It was like she was being controlled by someone else. At the same time, she hit the guy a few more times completely involuntarily. In fact, once the girl saw a similar comment. If you were in a novel with your favorite character, what would you do first? It was pointed out on social media. The main character in the story didn't even understand why she would even think about such a thing. That said, her answer was obvious. I would lock him in my room first, then feed him in goodies. I would stroke his head, let him rest, and feed him whatever he wanted. Make sure he had nothing to worry about. Of course I would hug him. The girl decided to write. Of course, the protagonist of the novella, a handsome man, was her favorite character. But once the girl got into the story herself, she hit her favorite man for some reason. When the hero took her hands, inside her, she definitely wanted this moment to last forever. But for some unknown reason, the girl on the contrary asked aloud to vividly let go of her hands. How dare someone like you touch me with your filthy hands? Involuntarily escaped from her mouth. They're not dirty at all. I'm so grateful that Kyle touched someone like me. Anyway, as if it wasn't enough that out of the blue I slapped my minion a few times. And I was rude. But he's still as handsome as ever. I can't believe I've been reborn in a novella. What's going on? The girl was in incomprehensible reflections. It seemed to her that it was definitely a dream. It could only be a dream. There was no such thing in reality. Oh, there can't be any more rascals. That was all the man could reply at that moment. Princess Agnes San, she can be described in many ways. The emperor's main jewel, the queen of high society, the most beautiful girl on the continent, and lastly, the time bomb of the imperial palace. In fact, she is just a princess who, under the influence of alcohol, started to get rowdy in honor of the end of the war. When the intoxicated girl punched the prince several times, the knights immediately ran up. "Sir, George, are you all right?" asked the men. The Duke himself was calm about such exuberant behavior of the lady, and only asked the aides to escort the girl to the palace sooner. Whatever happens, I'm in no position to say a word against them. The whole thing is unbearably sad, thought the man. In the morning, when the girl came to her senses, she finally realized that she had woken up in a novel, which in her previous life she herself had read. Now the girl was completely at a loss as to what to do. I was sure it was a dream, but it all seemed too real. Now the girl sat broken, with a grayed voice and swelling in the area of her palm, since she had been drinking vigorously last night. But what bothered her the most was that yesterday she had hit her minion as soon as she was reborn, and then passed out afterwards. In her previous life, the girl had been hit by a car. The ambulance didn't arrive in time, and the girl died. It would have been a shame to die on the way home from the cafe after celebrating her favorite character's birthday, but the true cause of her death was more unfair. Hey, seeing a goddess for the first time? I came down because I need to tell you something. I'm really sorry, but your time to die hasn't come yet. There seems to have been a glitch in the system that collects souls. On the way to heaven, the goddess who rules the world told her. It turns out that the death of the protagonist is a stupid mistake. Of course, the girl immediately asked the goddess to send her back, but the goddess apologized before explaining that her physical body had already rotted away. There was no way the goddess ruling the world could bring the girl back to life anymore. If I knew I was going to die like this, I wouldn't have put off romantic stories with my favorite character for later. What to do with everything I've ordered? Fell the protagonist in despair. But still, I'll take my own responsibility after all. It was my mistake. Had to resign herself to the girl. Then the goddess offered to live a new life in the same desired world. It doesn't matter if it's a real or fictional world. Do you want to be reborn somewhere? The goddess offered an alternative option. It wasn't something the girl had even considered, but this option definitely interested her. Please, send me to my favorite character. Immediately, the girl unknowingly asked. She did say that, but after all, she was asking to meet a guy, not hit. So you need to formulate your desires as precisely as possible. But there is an even more serious problem. As soon as the girl entered this world, she discerned her light lilac silver hair, violet eyes, and beautiful face. Unfortunately, her hunches were confirmed when she went to the mirror. Of all the characters, the girl became just her, a villain among villains, Agnes' son. The novella Unlimited Surge tells the story of the struggle of the main character, a super strong character, Raymond with demons, and brings together fans of different genres. Social media is calling it the Great Otaku Unification, and Agnes' son, the heroine of the novella, is a fan following the main character. It would be great if that were the end of it. For the average fan, she's too fixated on her object of adoration, so much so that she drank too much at the end of war ball last night. Nobody but Spencer did anything special. Planning to cut military funding and Sir Spencer's reputation, how are you all different from vermin? The girl was talking some nonsense in front of the bobcats returning from the Great War. Such behavior was truly appalling. Moreover, she had come to the Black Knights while being drunk out of her mind. Lowlifes like you are bothering Sir Spencer. You pathetic insects. With these words, she broke up a scandal. Then a man appeared to calm Agnes down. That man was Kyle. The man is a former mercenary and commander of the Black Knights, a steadfast adversary of the protagonist Raymond Spencer. And no less, he is the enemy of Agnes' son. Kyle hates Raymond because of his inferiority complex related to his origins. Therefore, every time they clashed, he cursed Raymond with all his might. This made Agnes and Kyle the second most popular villains. The arrogant Princess Agnes' son and the irascible commander Kyle George. These two hate each other to the point of insanity. Then why? Why did I, Kyle's biggest fan, become her? It was the damn goddess who made me Princess Agnes. It's all gone wrong from the beginning. The girl reborn in her new life into the heroine from the book was incredibly upset. The second day since the rebirth. Fortunately, after that incident, the girl started to control her own body. One would think that she was reborn into someone else's body, however, the goddess clearly said. Once reborn, you will quickly live all the years up to the beginning of the action of the novella. As the goddess stated right now, the girl's mind had memories of her life as Agnes San. Although the memories were too much, but the girl wasn't going to give up. Sorry, I seem to have inconvenienced Commander Kyle George yesterday. Where is he now? The girl decided to ask her maids. She thought of trying to get closer to Kyle at least now. The maids were extremely surprised at such a question from their mistress. What do you want to do? Of course he shouldn't have touched you, but still, you shouldn't kill him. The maid replied with consternation. The maid seemed to have misunderstood everything. Unpleasant, of course. But what can one do? You speak of such cruelty. I just want to meet him, explained the protagonist. Why is everyone making such a fuss? Because he wouldn't let me drink too much. The reborn girl didn't understand. Kyle is a member of the Order of Black Knights. Originally, there were 4 orders of knights in the imperial family. The White Knights, the elite among the elites, all members of the order possessed outstanding abilities and status. Blue Knights, an order that consisted of only unrivaled people. They wield the sword, whose status was of little importance. The Red Knights consisted of exceptional mages, and the Black Knights were a collection of slackers. They possessed superior abilities, but it was unknown what could be expected of them. They are called the Hounds of War, a knightly order that stands in the vanguard and bites everyone. Such a reputation goes beyond all bounds. You could say that, but they played a large role in conquests, violence, threats, rebellion, and the like. Because of the Order's reputation, Kyle has always been lonely and discriminated against. His image is somewhat reminiscent of the lonely protagonist in her past life during her high school years. The girl was hopelessly fascinated by Kyle. She even resorted to all known ways to advertise her favorite. She told about this literary hero to all her girlfriends. But the guy was not an attractive character at all, and her efforts brought absolutely no result. Meanwhile, on the day of the completion of the first part of the novel, Unlimited Surge, an incident occurred. How could this have happened? Isn't it obvious that we won the war? But how were the monsters able to suddenly enter the settlement's territories? Alex Sand didn't understand. Right after the end of the war with the demons, a crack suddenly appeared in the city. The temple revealed the whole truth. To solve the problem thoroughly, one must get rid of the source of the crack located at the top of the snowy mountain called the Edge of the World. However, there were only a few people in the world capable of destroying the source. The two strongest people in the Empire were Raymond Spencer, who combined outstanding resourcefulness and strength, and Kyle George, who had combat power and experience that made up for his lack of tactical training. This meant that one of the two of them had to sacrifice his life. However, it was Kyle who volunteered instead of the protagonist Raymond. There was only one reason why Kyle, who hated Raymond so much, could take all the initiative. He realized it when he returned to the capital after the Great War ended. Back then, people were screaming that Raymond was the only hero of the Empire. He was all the hope of the common people. No matter how hard Kyle fought, he couldn't defeat Raymond and become a hero. Therefore, Kyle headed to the source of the crack alone, leaving only one letter behind. The hero must not die. It was stated on a piece of paper. Kyle sacrificed his life to bring peace back to the Empire once again. Only after death could Kyle become a hero. At that moment, people in the first time changed their opinion of the man they called an evil spirit. Kyle's rise in the novella did not end there. A portrait of Kyle was published on the page of the author of the novella. Then the protagonist, who was a fan of this literary hero, came to love it, as well as other otaku. It was after that Kyle was at the pinnacle of popularity in no time. The girl spent her days in the cafe opened in honor of his birthday. But unfortunately, that hero died. However, the girl reborn into Agnes decided that from now on everything would be different, because she would change Kyle's future. Actually, that's why she went to the knight's office that very day. "Kyle, wait for me. I will make a path of flowers in your life," the girl promised herself. But as soon as she opened the doors to the knight's study, she saw that his hands were tied and the boy himself was on his knees. As it turned out, the servants had misunderstood her when Princess Agnes had asked her to prepare the man for her arrival. "We have him bound so he can neither escape nor resist. A work of the White Knights to be proud of," one of the boys said with a smile. Agnes immediately demanded the immediate release of Sir George, much to the surprise of the workers themselves, after which she threw them out of the room. I really wanted to treat him kindly. Why does something like this keep happening? The reborn lady didn't understand. After that, the guy decided to suggest to the girl that she personally slit his wrists. He admitted that he would accept any punishment for daring to touch the lady yesterday. But of course, Agnes didn't want to slit his wrists. How could she ever ruin something so precious? "Not my wrists, then. I must lose my head," the man asked in reply. When the girl again said she wouldn't do that, he decided to offer another option. "Then you will be satisfied if I take off my knight's uniform?" asked the man. As soon as the protagonist imagined it, then her breath caught. Surely there must be manly abs lurking beneath the shirt. "Oh, I meant leaving the Night Order." After a second, he corrected his words. Naturally, the guy didn't mean anything like what the girl had imagined. Now he'll think I'm not only a scoundrel, but also perverted. Agnes thought at that second. The girl decided to offer her own option. Just pretend that nothing had happened yesterday. She had slapped him anyway. "I'm so nervous I can't even look at him," spun around in the girl's head as she confirmed the fact that it was best to forget about yesterday. She had a lot of things she wanted to say, but she knew it was better to leave now. The girl who had punched him in the face yesterday was suddenly showing favor today? He would definitely think the princess had lost her mind. It's important to take my time. I'll slowly get closer to him, so I'll be practicing perfect acting for a while, decided the protagonist. Now the girl knew that she would, in a slow pace, step by step, get closer and closer to the young man. As soon as Agnes left, George immediately rose from his knees. To be honest, the man still didn't understand why the princess had come at all. I was sure she wanted to kick me out of the order, but she didn't do anything? What are you up to this time? The man didn't know and suspected. Still, he hadn't expected such a reaction to words spoken without hidden meaning. There is a naive side to the princess. Who would have thought? Did I say something wrong? Pondered the guy. However, it feels like I've played a joke on her. Not bad. He also consoled himself. A few days later, after the meeting with Kyle, under the pretext of illness, Agnes locked herself in the palace. The girl thought about how she could get closer to Kyle, but she decided to do so only after she had sorted out the plot of the novel. After the incident with a rude remark at the ball, her reputation had fallen to nothing. The princess herself had insulted those who fought and put their lives on the line. It couldn't have been otherwise. No matter how much I try to get close to Kyle under these circumstances, my reputation will negatively affect him. Is there really no suitable excuse? Besides, that very incident is going to happen soon. The girl reborn, as Agnes remembered. But she was interrupted from her thoughts by the Emperor, who sent Agnes to his place. Then she was once again convinced that the ending would be the same as in the novella, as she thought she was going to be chased out of the palace. The San Imperial family, ruling over this empire, had developed a magical weapon, the only one of its kind that allowed them to fight against demons. It has brought peace to this continent and at the same time wields immense power. And Emperor Alex San is the most powerful man in the empire. And finally, the reborn girl saw the Emperor for the first time after waking up in another body. "Greetings, Your Majesty," greeted the daughter. The man himself was thinking at that moment how hard her beloved daughter was being treated right now. He is actually a very caring father. I realize that myself. You can't cover for your child forever. Also think the man who had to come up with the punishment for Agnes. But at the same time, his kindness still came to the forefront. What can I do? When I look at her, who reminds me of my dead spouse, my heart melts. She no longer obeys me even when I scold her, the man thought. At that moment, the girl herself realized that it was not easy for the Emperor to make any decisions that concerned his daughter. So for the sake of Agnes, whose reputation had breached the gates of hell, the Emperor thought of one way. You probably know that you are increasingly being talked about in social circles. I have no choice but to send you outside the capital until your reputation is restored. Princess Agnes's banishment from the capital is now beginning. It would be a big event that would happen to the princess. But how much the girl didn't want that, because then she wouldn't be able to see Kyle. This must not happen, so the girl herself decided to insist on her own first. "Father, I do not wish this," she stated formidably. "How can it be? You are, after all, the most caring papa in high society. Let's see you forcibly drive away your favorite daughter, who is like 2 drops of water like your wife," thought the girl, who was confident of the Emperor's character. "Agnes, if you don't do as I say, I will have to make another decision. What doesn't suit you with this option?" Then the father decided to inquire. "Everything suits me except leaving the capital. There's no way I want to leave here," explained the daughter. Then she thought that she would either have to clean the stables, confiscate all her dresses and jewelry, or move to the maid's room or serve in the temple. But her father, unexpectedly to the girl, ordered an entirely different punishment. "You will be appointed a mage in the Black Order of Knights," declared the Emperor. "Yes, I mean that very order of Black Knights. It must be hard for you to accept? In time." The man started to speak, but the girl interrupted him and easily accepted the task. The girl was ready to go there right now. Most of the members of the imperial family, including Agnes, inherit immense magical power. Therefore, it was always normal for them to join the White Knight Order like the Crown Prince and Agnes's older brother Demian did. Of course, Agnes had never been on missions simply because it was burdensome for her. The girl was originally a member of the Order of the White Knights, but now she was being sent to Kyle. "Please transfer me immediately. I will definitely go there." Immediately, the daughter replied to the emperor. She actually thought this was the best development. The emperor himself even considered calling a doctor at that moment, as there was something wrong with his daughter. In response, the girl only laughed. "I can't believe I got an excuse to see my favorite every day. Kyle, wait for me. You're sure to be enchanted by me." The main character couldn't be happy. A couple hours later, the news spread throughout the kingdom. "Have you heard? Be that as it may, I think His Majesty has gone too far this time. A member of the imperial family in the Black Knight Order? I've never heard of such a thing. Yes, she has a difficult character, but she's still young." The people were discussing the latest event. "Considering Her Highness's immoral behavior, I don't consider His Majesty's decision to be excessive. On the contrary, it can be considered her recompense. Isn't she not only causing trouble not only for the nobles, but also for His Highness the Crown Prince?" Considered someone. "Completely agree. Besides, they say that the princess has already fully recovered from her illness. Judging from the fact that she's not at tonight's ball, she's ashamed herself. Or has the confidence from her beautiful face been washed away by her tears? It's worth a look. I don't think I should say whatever I want to say now." At every turn, the aristocrats continued to whisper. Even the member of the Order of White Knights, Sirius Mel, noticed how much people enjoyed discussing others. Aren't they right? Nobles have been discussing others for days. Another member of the Order of White Knights, Holly, answered him. "They have absolutely no respect for ladies. I can't listen to this anymore," said Sirius, before stepping further away from the gathering of people. When it comes to a girl, Sirius pretends to be a gentleman, but really he's just a crazy pervert. His co-worker Holly thought at that moment. At the same time, the deputy commander of the White Knights, Diana Wren, approached Holly. The girl was just asking where Sirius had gone. A member of the Order of the White Knights, Hazel, was also next to them. This girl was the #1 candidate to be the main character of Boundless Surge. "I'll explain. He left after saying that he didn't want to listen to Princess Agnes's criticism," explained Sirius's words to his co-worker Holly. "He's something to something, but honestly, I understand him. Agnes is Demian's only sister after all. No matter how fair the comments are, I would never gossip about my friend's family," said Diana, who was Crown Prince Demian's childhood friend. After a few seconds, Saint Liana decided to join the guys. "Wow, heroes from the White Order have gathered here." The girl was jokingly surprised. She also decided to wonder what interesting things those were discussing. By the way, the girl was the #2 candidate for the title of the main character of Unlimited Splash. "We were talking about Princess Agnes, the saint," explained Holly then. "Really? I heard what happened to her. I never thought His Majesty would make such a decision," the lady confessed. This girl, whose name was Saint Liana, was a commoner, but one morning she received a divine revelation and became a saint. Stares fixed on a girl with no power or status never boded well. Disdain and ridicule from arrogant nobles and flirtations. However, after the complete extraction of several possessed, her life changed dramatically. People began to honor and admire her, which had never happened before. She experienced many completely opposite attitudes towards herself. And after that, Liana gradually began to want more and more. As soon as she approached the Knights of the Order, she thought about the fact that Holly, the heir of the ducal family, has a good reputation in the Order, but still, he is not her equal. Besides, the girl herself sympathized with the guy. But isn't it wonderful? Even the commander has become calmer. "Saint, you won't be picked on in vain anymore," said Holly regarding Agnes's punishment. "What? To me? Oh, it doesn't matter to me. Princess Agnes disapproved of me, but that's quite normal. I was a commoner before, after all. On the contrary, I am extremely grateful to the princess for making me look miserable," sweetly replied Saint Liana. "Men are so simple. But what am I supposed to do about it? I'm not going to date any of them. Still, shouldn't Lady Hazel be happier than me?" The girl changed the subject. Liana believed that there were only 2 men in this empire who were right for her: the Crown Prince Dimian San and Sir Spencer, who had just then come to the ball. As soon as the commander of the Order of the White Knights, Raymond Spencer, came to the ball, the enamored Liana immediately started acting differently to seem more nice. "We were talking about the princess. Sir Dev will feel safe now." Liana shared with the Commodore. "After all, Sir Dev to the princess. Oh, I probably shouldn't mention that, should I?" The girl was silent for a second. "I apologize. I'm still not quite used to the nobleman's style of speech." Saint Liana continued to make a fool of herself. At the same time, it was as if Holly himself didn't realize how he was being pandered to. It's so openly entangling a person. Holly is such a fool not to notice it, thought at that moment Diana, who was watching these guys from the side. Meanwhile, Agnes, who is at the center of the commotion, is unaware of anything. The girl was quietly drinking tea together with her maid, Daisy. "An order of Black Knights? How could His Majesty make such a judgment? What if Kyle George, that peculiar man, tortures you?" The maid was sincerely worried for her mistress. The protagonist herself was well aware that this would be the case, but was completely calm about it. "Kyle definitely hates me. I'm sure he'll use this opportunity to annoy me properly," realized the girl. Somehow, that didn't seem like a completely bad thing to her. Perhaps it was all because of the feelings the girl had in real life for the handsome literary hero. "Princess, do you have a fever? You're flushed! Should I call the doctor again? Should I inform His Majesty that you are sick? Maybe he won't even send you to the Black Knights." The maid was frightened as soon as she saw the redness on her mistress's face. But originally, Agnes had only blushed slightly because she was embarrassed at the thought of Kyle. "I'm glad she's the only maid who isn't afraid of me, but she can be burdensome sometimes." The Emperor's daughter thought at that moment, so she also decided to consult with the girl. "Even if it's a bunch of rascals, do you think they'll be able to do anything to me? In any case, the war has been won, and there's practically nothing to do now," explained the princess. At this point, Agnes said she had a headache and asked Daisy to step outside. "Yes, Daisy, the cocky people of the Empire are still intoxicated with the joy of winning the war against the demons, not knowing that this tranquility would not last long. But the reborn girl knew where and when the demons will appear. Therefore, she decided to save the people in the eastern region after half a year. At that time, she decided that all the credit would go to Kyle. All of this was made possible by Sir George's foresight," thought to say the girl. That was exactly what her perfect plan looked like. At that moment, she was pulled from her musings by her older brother, who walked into the room. "Why didn't you tell me you were coming? Big brother?" Immediately the girl asked. "An unceremonious greeting, as always. Agnes!" Crown Prince Demian San disgruntledly replied. Before his brother came to her room, he had been talking to his father. The Emperor shared that he had noticed that Agnes was kind of strange. "The doctor says there is nothing wrong with her, but she was not stubborn when I forbade her to attend balls, and she accepted the transfer to the Order of Black Knights calmly." The Emperor expressed his surprise. "Do you think something might have happened to her?" decided to ask the Crown Prince, although he himself thought that Agnes was always out of her mind. She was definitely bewitched by a strange magical book that has been popular in high society lately. The Emperor even hazarded a guess, but the son reassured his father as best he could, since he had learned that his sister would not have gone mad to such an extent. "I want to ask you, Demian, to go see her personally and assess her condition," father ordered then. Demian was Agnes's only brother, after all. Therefore, the boy actually took a moment to stop by the girl's house. Greetings, your noble highness crown prince, Daisy immediately said as soon as she met Demian on the doorstep. When the boy walked into his sister's room, he immediately realized that it didn't look like Agnes had some strange book. You must be the young lady from Duke Rodian's family? I would like to have a chat with my sister. Could you please leave us alone? Decided to ask Demian to the maid girl. After a few seconds, the brother-sister were alone. Agnes, how much longer are you going to bother His Majesty? If you keep acting frivolous like this, you won't be able to find a good groom, even though you're a princess. Immediately, her brother began to reprimand her. Don't tarnish the honor of the imperial family again. Father will not stop loving and pampering you, but he does not expect the same from me. From now on, as a mage of the Black Knight Order, you will have to take your missions seriously, Demian stated in a serious tone. The girl, in turn, had no problem agreeing with him. And then the guy was really surprised that Agnesa calmly replied, I hope you won't forget about this promise, said the man quietly, before leaving his sister's room. I'm glad I have a family now that I didn't have in my previous life, thought the protagonist at that moment. With others, the brother acts friendly, while with his sister, he is irritable. Of course, Agnes had done a lot to deserve such treatment, but still the girl thought it was not outrageous. But still, is he saying I can't find a good groom? What's the use of it at all? Passing the era when airships fly across the sky, how can he still be of such old-fashioned views? The girl didn't understand. Boundless Surge is a world that combines authentic sci-fi with steampunk. The girl immediately wanted to catch up with her brother and say something, but she decided to refrain because tomorrow she would finally be officially transferred to the Order of Black Knights. The next day, Daisy helped Agnes to dress in the most appropriate way. I think this uniform suits me better than the white uniform of the White Knights, the girl thought. On top of that, she also has paired clothes with Kyle. Even the maids noticed how much the uniform suited the girl, but they decided to refrain from saying so to Agnes herself, because the mistress might find it ugly that the maid put her on the same level as the Black Knights. Though Agnes herself had said aloud how much the uniform suited her, it was even inappropriate to ask about it. Are you sure you don't mind the transition, princess? Daisy asked, surprised. I can't do as I please forever. As His Majesty the Emperor said, I will display the nobility that a member of the imperial family should possess. In a calm tone, the girl replied, You may leave now. It's time for me to go to the Order of Black Knights, the protagonist also added. Now it was time for Agnes to finally be able to show Kyle her new self. The girl felt just on top of her game. At this time, in the office of the head of the Black Knights Horde, Kyle's assistant reminded the boss that the princess was really coming today. I guess I can bet my right to be called a knight on her not showing up. It even made the boy want to bet. That being said, Kyle had already visited the Emperor a few days ago. Agnes lost her mother as a child and grew up alone. There is talk in the community that Agnes is not fulfilling her role as a healer because of her selfishness. Narrated the man. But the father also admitted that the girl is actually just very impressionable. The man said that Agnes was horrified by the mere sight of a patient with symptoms similar to those of her mother. And when the nanny died, the girl became like a dead man. I know I'm too soft on my daughter, but I can't do otherwise. It is harder for me to manage her than the duties of ruler, the man admitted. Kyle understood at that moment that the Emperor wanted to say that even though Agnes was formally his subordinate, he could not treat her carelessly. One must put on a show. But she can't live like this forever. From what I've heard, you've been doing well on the front lines. You fought demons. Can't you take control of Princess Agnes? Make it so that she can feel the bitterness of life, asked the Emperor. Are you telling me to give the princess no favors and treat her as my subordinate? Surprised, he decided to ask Kyle George again. Exactly. If possible, then take her as your disliked subordinate, confirmed the Emperor. The Emperor's order was quite unexpected, but the current Emperor's power is peerlessly strong. If the princess acted as the emperor wished, if she caught his attention, Kyle would be able to impress his stepmother and cousins, as well as those who looked down on him. This is an opportunity to repay the princess for her contempt for me, thought the lad to himself. Well, she'll wish she hadn't come. I don't expect her to show up either, replied the chief to his subordinate. But in a couple of minutes, the servants reported that Agnes' son had arrived. At that moment, the girl appeared in the Black Knight's office. I can't believe she actually came, Kyle marveled. The guy even thought that it looked like the girl hadn't fully realized the situation, which he decided to remind her once again. His Majesty has ordered me to never treat you special for anything when you are wearing the uniform of the Order of the Black Knights, the man warned. So since you yourself came here in uniform, can I assume that you are already ready to grovel before me? Kyle asked with a smirk. The girl then stated that she hoped the man would be rude to her before, and let him lead her without sharing the girl with the other members of the order, because that was what she wanted for herself. This is an order of appointment. You, Lady Agnes' son, are now officially a member of the Order of Black Knights, said Kyle, and held out the required document. But something still felt strange to George. I'm used to people looking at me with disdain because I'm a bastard child, but Princess Agnes didn't look at me with disdain, noted the man. He thought the girl was looking at him like a pest. It's such a strange feeling that she thinks I'm the most pest in the world. As much as she's afraid His Majesty will get rid of her, she's not the kind of person who will discard her pride easily. Kyle understood perfectly. But her behavior today is different than usual. What are you thinking, Agnes' son? Wondered the man inside himself. At this time, the girl was only thinking about how much she liked the sarcasm in Kyle's voice. In addition to that, the girl couldn't take her eyes off the man's beautiful beauty. Is it possible for coldness to look so harmoniously on these neat features? She wondered. Marveled the girl in love. She also noticed that he had a broad and sexy chest, as the strongest man in the world should have. He even has beautiful handwriting. Except for his character, he is perfect in everything. But she also loves his character, which makes Kyle even remind the girl of a kitty cat. After signing the contract, the man said that he would now give her her first assignment. The task at hand is to restore the outer walls of the capital fortress in the Eastern District from the damage caused by the war, ordered the man. However, before the builders start working, the Black Knights will go there and make a check for the presence of the remaining monsters. That's where you're going alone. Other than dressing up in dresses and looking in the mirror, you don't know how to do anything. I'm curious to see how well you'll do on this mission. A small pistol is provided as a weapon for you. With a smirk, said the man, who looked as if he had decided to mock her, sending not a combat warrior but a mage healer alone, while only issuing him with a single small pistol was the same as saying, when facing a monster, just die. But the girl decided that it wasn't that important to her. She thought she would go along with Kyle, but ends up forfeiting her date with him. But of course, the mission wasn't a date in the first place. Agnes had to answer that she would do anything. Will everything be all right? If the princess really goes alone to the area and meets a monster? The knight's aide whispered in her ear. I don't know. If she's really scared, she'll cry and ask for His Majesty's help, said the man and smiled. As it turned out, Kyle purposely didn't say anything to Jeremy. When he himself had come to the area, visiting the arrested order members, the patrol had already been completed. Kyle hadn't officially announced it for the sake of the princess's good debut. The empty village, from which all the inhabitants had been evacuated, was left with buildings touched by the horror of war. More importantly, there's a heightened anticipation there that someone might jump out at you. Having experienced it firsthand, the princess would no longer be able to be rude like before. At least that's what Kyle George thought. To be honest, if it weren't for the order from the Emperor, I wouldn't have gone this far with a child who only recently came of age. The man admitted to himself at that moment. But anyway, nothing dangerous would happen, so it didn't matter. Now, the chief of the Black Knights ordered the new girl to step into the designated place. At this time, a member of the Order of the White Knights, Sirius Mel learned about the new assignment from the Black Knight Guards. The man thought that Kyle George had completely lost his mind, so he decided to share it with his colleague. It doesn't matter now. On my way here, I clearly heard. Kyle George is single-handedly sending Princess Agnes into a dangerous neighborhood. It's not like he hasn't been checked yet. Moreover, when I look into the armory just in case, Princess Agnes was only given one small pistol. Resented Sirius to the commander. Resented. It's true that out of a desire to take all the laurels for himself, Kyle George has caused a bit of trouble on the battlefield. Confirmed the man. Kyle, after all, skillfully held the whole line and got off with a light punishment. He's not the kind of man who acts without thinking of the consequences, and he can't be so blinded by power that he would incur the Emperor's wrath, though the Commodore thought it looked like a plan to discourage the princess. Still, Sirius tried to explain to Raymond that there was a possibility of danger. What if the princess gets seriously hurt? I want to go check it out too, but right now I have to go on patrol, said Sirius. All right, I'll personally look after the princess so you go on a mission, decided Raymond then. Say something to Kyle George. He thinks the Black Order is on par with the White Order, Sirius said lastly before leaving the commander's room. As soon as the man left, the Commodore thought deeply as he sat on his couch. How much longer am I going to have to deal with the princess's problems? When she was transferred to the Order of Black Knights, I was relieved that I wouldn't have to deal with her nonsense anymore. But I got interfered with on the first day of her transfer. The man admitted to himself. Perhaps it wasn't Kyle George who was responsible this time either, but Princess Agnes? Raymond suggested. Her reckless interest and selfish courtship, I'm tired of them. Also admitted the man. The commander of the Order of White Knights knew for sure that he would now go to any lengths to escape from the princess. At this time, the girl on her horse was already approaching her desired location for the task. While Agnes and Raymond were on their way to the dangerous area, meanwhile, a member of their order, Oliver, came to the Black Knights commander's office. Commander, those who left for the dangerous area yesterday are currently returning, narrated the man. It's torturous to deal with this after we return, explained Oliver. In general, this order worker focuses more on increasing physical strength than basic training. Besides, this man is a bit wordy, so it's hard to get an adequate answer from him. The knight who went on rounds with me yesterday suddenly made a commotion, said she'd lost her cat and it was in my clothes. So we stopped searching and came back, so we'll have to go back there. Narrated a member of the Black Knights. This really displeased Commander Kyle. Damn it, we shouldn't have trusted them! If the search is still over, then the princess is now. Scared the man. Meanwhile, Agnes had already arrived at the right place for the purpose of a detour, but the guards initially wouldn't let her in, continuing to question why she had come here. Judging by the fact that they don't ask about my arrival, everything here has already been looked over. The girl thought, and pulled out a license paper to prove that she had come here to circumvent a dangerous area on the commander's orders. The document was confirmed by the guards, and then the girl was able to enter. Quite expected. There's no way Kyle would put me in danger, thought the girl. He must have gone to such a sneaky length to scare me. How sweet, Agnes also guessed. As soon as the girl walked a little further, she noticed how horrible the place was. Fortunately, the residents had been evacuated beforehand, and there were few casualties. Raymond did a great job. People are praising Raymond, calling him a war hero. They're right. With his unrivaled resourcefulness, Raymond caught the demons' movements and their plan. He has won almost every battle he has fought. Moreover, he is young and attractive, and carries the wound of losing his mother as a child to a demon in his soul. He was a star that couldn't help but be admired. However, because of his light, other knights were forgotten. Unlike Raymond, who mostly commanded, Kyle fought personally. No one appreciated that. Thinking over the whole story of the book's plot, The girl decided that when she returned, she should pretend to be scared to death that Kyle took pity on her. But even then, she saw the dark silhouette of an incomprehensible creature. Could it be a monster? Was this area not explored after all? Or has the area been examined afterthought? What am I supposed to do? Help, Kyle! The girl was scared out of her wits. But a second later, a small cat jumped out from under the trash can. Everything was fine. It was just a cute little creature. The girl even took the cat in her arms. Judging by how calmly she sits in her arms, she's used to people. The owner couldn't take her away during the evacuation? The girl didn't understand. Also, while the cat was sitting in her arms, Agnes noticed that the animal was badly injured, so she needed to treat it. I was just getting bored. Do you want to make the rounds with me? Then I'll find your master, the girl said with a smile. But her joy didn't last long. After a moment, she heard sounds as if someone was sneaking up on her. And when Agnes turned around, she realized that it was not a cat at all. The girl even thought that she would die such an insignificant death again. How she didn't want to believe it. Fortunately, Kyle appeared on the horizon, who with the sharp blade of his sword easily dealt with the monster. The man saved the girl. "Are you okay? I didn't put you in danger on purpose. There was an error in the report. I'm sorry." The Black Knight commander began to apologize. He also held out a piece of handkerchief to the girl to wipe the blood on her face. It was obvious that Agnes was scared. Apparently, those rogue 4 knights couldn't make a proper round. Kyle found out about it late, so they had to hurry up. "I'm so grateful. I finally got a chance to go on a date with Kyle," thought and rejoiced the main character. But it was all a bust. As soon as she decided to suggest that the guy take a walk together, she saw Raymond approaching them on his horse. "You're in trouble again, Kyle George. Wipe off the blood first, princess." With these words, the man got down from his horse and handed the girl a handkerchief. She thought my handkerchief was dirty and didn't want to take it? Kyle wondered as the girl wiped her face with Raymond's handkerchief. Sounds like she's pretty pissed off. She thinks I'm the reason she missed an opportunity to be alone with Raymond Spencer. She wants to blame me. Sounded in Kyle's mind at that moment. "Kyle George, I will put a lid on this situation. However, something like this must not happen again," ordered Raymond. "The Imperial family is not a battlefield. You will not get what you want with your will," said Raymond menacingly. Kyle didn't take his words seriously, though. Glossing over the situation? Who asked him to? He's already acting like her husband. The Black Knight commander thought with a smirk. It's worth listening to. After all, this is advice from the Empire's hero himself. But aren't you being a bit presumptuous? With a sneer, Kyle replied, "I was the one His Majesty entrusted to command Princess Agnes, so why are you following her around? Did you sign up to be a babysitter?" George continued to quip. "You keep rejecting the princess's advances. Are you actually keeping her on the hook?" Kyle said lastly, before Raymond silently turned his back and walked away. Because of the rivalry, Kyle continued to think Raymond was a dirty bastard who only pretended to be a noble knight. You think I don't know what you're up to win the heart of a princess and become the emperor's son-in-law? You treat me like garbage, blinded by power, and yet you're exactly the same, thought Kyle. Someday I'll show everyone your dirty intentions, Raymond Spencer, promised himself at that moment the commander of the Black Knights. When the girl got into Raymond's carriage, she was still upset that things had turned out this way. What's he doing here? I had a chance to have a fantastic date with Kyle, didn't I? And why are we traveling in the same carriage? Didn't understand the protagonist. If you think about it that way, Agnes is meeting Raymond for the first time since her rebirth. Well, to be honest, he's handsome, but not my type. First of all, his chest is too narrow, the girl thought to herself. Raymond gives the impression of a nobleman who grew up too perfect. I like the wild and rough ones better. He is so perfect that there is no humanity in him. Agnes compared the two boys. The girl, even after meeting these literary characters in person, still liked Kyle better. But I have to pretend to love Raymond, so I'll put all my acting skills to use. Agnes decided, and then asked the man why he had come here. As everyone knows, Raymond Spencer is the most desirable jewel for Agnes. No one would believe it if she were to give up her feelings in an instant, and though it annoyed her, she had to pretend as if she was attracted to the man. Raymond himself realized that obviously if he told the truth about why he came here, the girl would have an overreaction. "You were worried about me? I knew you had feelings for me too, Sir Spencer." Imagined Raymond's response to Agnes. "I have come here today to ask you to refrain from doing things that members of the imperial family should not do. I ask you to stop showing your attention to me and be an example of a model princess." Decided to directly state the man. "Are you asking me to stop bothering you and start behaving with dignity? I realize that all this time unwittingly annoyed you." Unexpectedly, the girl uttered. She decided to show herself as a tired girl whose heart was broken, so she said that she wouldn't stand in Raymond's way anymore. "I'll pretend to stop being a fan of him because he broke my heart," decided the main character. The man then stated that he was really happy to hear that, and now hoped that Agnes would devote herself to the service. "Of course, that's why you shouldn't come any more from now on," said Agnes, who was actually angry with the man since Raymond had disrupted her date. As soon as the girl got out of the carriage, Raymond carefully considered what had just happened on the road. Did she agree without even thinking? Or did she get that upset? Spencer wondered. Either way, it didn't matter to the guy anymore. Now the princess wouldn't bother him anymore. For the first time in a long time, he felt relieved. After talking to the girl, Raymond went to her brother to tell him what had happened. "By all appearances, Kyle George wishes to take revenge on the princess." The commander of the White Knights began to narrate. "No wonder. Agnes has been extremely contemptuous of people below status all this time. Well, as long as nothing terrible happened, then it's fine. She wasn't even hurt. Still, I can't fall for what His Majesty has allowed to happen. Agnes must be dealt with. She's the one I'm worried about first," the man thought. "You say Agnes won't bother you anymore? You?" Agnes's brother decided to ask. "Yes. However, the intonation was not particularly sincere," replied Knight Raymond. "Well, she has a tendency to speak with every kind of gaze. Because of that, she will one day become a great obstacle for you, Your Highness," said Raymond, and Demian realized that the knight was indeed right. Agnes is like an old time bomb. There is no telling when and where it will go off. She's not the kind of opponent that requires a lot of effort to eliminate. She's just a nuisance. Agnes is an arrogant and luxurious obstacle. I had hoped she would marry soon, but the proud people of the Empire will not be happy if a member of the imperial family marries a foreigner. Perfectly understood her brother Demian. Therefore, I have searched within the Empire for the best man capable of mating Agnes. This man is my most trusted servant and closest friend. I believe that there was no better option than Raymond Spencer," said Demian about his colleague. However, the nobles don't treat the princess well either. And Demian notices that Raymond doesn't like Agnes at all. He's the one my little sister is in love with. Isn't he expressing himself too harshly? Demian was angry, yet he didn't show it outwardly at all. No, even I nag about Agnes's shenanigans sometimes, but I'm her older brother, right? An outsider is a different matter altogether, Demian thought, and told his friend that Agnes wouldn't bother him anymore, since the girl herself had promised to do so. "So you need not deliberately criticize her in my presence," said Demian, and on that note the conversation between them came to an end. However, the incidents involving Raymond Spencer did not end. At the same time, in the palace, Agnes's maids Chloe and Emma were shocked when they saw the appearance of their mistress. Her hair was tangled from the fall, her clothes were soiled, and traces of blood were present everywhere. "What happened to you two? Did you meet a monster during the mission? But you're bleeding, aren't you injured?" The maids were worried. Chloe and Emma are known for spreading gossip the fastest, so the girl definitely told what happened to her. "A terrible thing almost happened to me, But thanks to Sir George, I stayed alive, said Agnes, for she realized that she might as well use these two. This was the girls' chance to improve Kyle's reputation. If they spread the rumor that Kyle had saved Agnes's life, everything would go as planned. But wasn't it his fault that you were put in danger? If the commander had done his job properly, none of this would have happened. Then the girls answered her. Weren't one or two people from the Order of Black Knights arrested because of actions taken? Reminded Emma. Moreover, while walking in front of the Order's building, I ran into Kyle George. Not that he didn't say hello. He even looked at me angrily. You can't trust a man like that, Princess. The maids continued to stand their ground. Agnes herself realized that Kyle was simply not very experienced in socializing. This may come as a surprise, but Kyle's reputation is as tainted as mine. A long-term plan is needed to improve his image, realized the protagonist. That's why the girl decided to tell the maids that she was supposedly wrong about Sir George. Contrary to expectations, he is loyal to his beliefs, and he really saved me, Agnes declared. The girl decided that the plan was still to be realized. But I hear you have returned with Sir Raymond Spencer, said Emma. But then the mistress asked that the girl not mention that name to her on any account. The curious maids immediately asked for an account of what had happened between them. I won't describe it in detail, but I can be hurt too. I'm tired. Agnes, who started to play the role of a tired girl with a broken heart, decided to say, I need to rest. I'm covered in blood and I don't feel well, said Agnes to the girls to leave her room. And as soon as the maids left the room, the girl smiled slyly. Come on, my sweet little fledglings, fly and spread the rumors, rejoiced the protagonist, who had everything going according to plan so far. However, the reality was a little different from Agnes's expectation. The princess who always talked about Sir Spencer doesn't want to do it anymore. Something serious has definitely happened, supposed Chloe. In reply, Emma mentioned the fact that the princess was kind to her people, and they too had a hard time because of the girl's temper. But the advantages of a female worker in the palace are enormous. In particular, the things that the princess gave to Sir Spencer simply cannot be counted. This was Emma's way of hinting that the man might not be able to contain himself and turn to profanity. You think to yourself, Sir Spencer has rejected the princess many times so far, but she has never been depressed to this extent. If the princess is this hurt, then surely something more than just rejection has happened. Did he take everything away from her and hurt her? Shocked, Emma and Chloe discussed. The princess buried her feelings after Raymond Spencer hurt her. The rumor Agnes was hoping for was slightly distorted by the two gossipers. The rumor was distorted to the extent that there were elaborate quotes from Raymond, who had allegedly expressed himself quite improperly towards Lady Agnes. Suddenly, Raymond Spencer was the one who had driven a big nail into the princess's heart with his unspeakable rudeness. And this rumor soon enough reached the ears of the unexpected man, who was at once greatly enraged at what he heard. That damn Spencer family descendant injured my daughter? What a scoundrel! The emperor was indignant. Please calm down, Your Majesty. The source is unreliable. The butler tried to calm him down, but of course the emperor, as a loving father, was no longer listening to any excuses. The emperor knew that the Spencer family was full of such impertinent men like father and son. Duke Spencer's family is one of the 4 ducal families in the empire. It is so prestigious and wealthy that no one is able to do anything to it. However, the reborn girl has long harbored a hatred for this Duchess Spencer, all because it is the father of Raymond is the first love of the Empress. Moreover, he showed up at the wedding and called for her to be stopped. Fortunately, the Empress has already denied her feelings for him, but the girl still could not calm down. Now Demyan had befriended Spencer's son without his sister's knowledge. He gave Agnes a confused look. For my sweet daughter to become that scoundrel's bride? No way, no way, no way! I don't wish to imagine that, even if she doesn't crack, even if I die. So far, everything has been fine. I believe that the son will not be like his father. But how dare he hurt my daughter's heart, that despicable, wicked one!" aggressively shouted and resented the emperor. "Your Majesty, calm down! This could be a good sign!" Still, the butler tried to calm him down, even though it sounded silly to the emperor at first. Based on the words of the service staff, the princess was heartbroken and even ordered not to speak his name again. "Doesn't this mean that the princess no longer has the same feelings for Sir Spencer?" explained the servant, and then the emperor realized that it was indeed for the best. However, the butler reported that there was no one in the social circle who had not heard the news. Even those who don't go out much know about it. The news spread everywhere. And when Kyle found out, he was even angrier than the emperor. How much Kyle hated that Sir Spencer, Raymond Spencer. I didn't like him from the beginning. High status, education, knowledge. Thought the commander of the Black Knights. Everything I desired but never had, he possessed from birth. Envied his rival Kyle. He treated me, who had nothing, who had to coddle, like garbage, blinded by power. As if someone who was sneaking around secretly from the bottom wasn't worthy of understanding. Did that scumbag just insult the princess? Despicable and despicable. Analyzed the man. The commander of the Order of the White Knights, obligated to protect the members of the imperial family, treated one of them not only as a tool, but also as a person beneath himself. But why did someone who had always pretended to be noble suddenly drop his mask? Kyle couldn't understand. The man only assumed that Raymond was angry because the irreparable almost happened, and so he took out that anger on the princess. Wait, so it comes out that the princess was crying because of me? I thought I would only be happy if that arrogant person was sobbing, but I know that my mistake is to blame. There's an unpleasant pressure in my chest. The man admitted to himself. All the more reason he would hate for the emperor to banish him because of it. So Kyle George thought he should formally apologize. But there's a problem. He doesn't know how to socialize with girls. There's no way I, a man of low status, aside from those moments when I'm wearing the uniform of the Order, can willingly come to the princess. How should I proceed? Kyle didn't know. But at that moment, it was as if the universe heard him. Agnes herself entered his room. Your Highness, corrected the slightly shocked boy. Your Highness? Why didn't he address me as Lady San? Is it really because of that? The maids made a big fuss to put a cape on me. I can't believe he's reading. Supposedly I'm out of shape because of one layer of fabric. Kyle is just so stuffy, thought the protagonist at that moment. The guy himself started apologizing. Your Highness, I apologize for putting you in danger because of my inattention. I promise it will never happen again, said the man and put his hand to his heart. I didn't come here to hear that. But since Kyle said it, should I play along? The girl thought, and then told him that if it happened again, she would punish the man severely. Such as sentencing him to life in her arms, but she didn't mention that anymore. Speaking of which, Commander, what about the area that hasn't had its rounds completed? The girl asked, and since she addressed him as Commander, the guy thought that meant they were both now communicating according to the Order's bylaws. Kyle then told her that they had been finalized by the Sir Oliver in charge. Now, where will my next mission take place? The girl decided to clarify. Then Kyle told her that there would be no mission for a while, so Agnes could only take part in training, and the guy also told her that the opportunity had come to introduce the girl to other knights, which Agnes herself was extremely surprised about. In the novella, the members of the Order of Black Knights are not described in detail. I wonder what they are like. Surprised with curiosity the protagonist. That's when Kyle took the girl into his office to introduce her to other people as the new knight of the Black Order. It's a pleasure to meet you. Though this authority was originally granted only to Sir George, I allow everyone, when I'm wearing my uniform, to address me as a knight. At once, the girl introduced herself and explained herself. Agnes then introduced herself to Oliver and other knights who were in the study at that moment. Do you only have 2 people in the order? Surprised the protagonist. Of course we don't. One had robbed a bank during the war, another tried to take the opportunity to kill his enemy. A third wanted to create a magic tool out of a demon's corpse, and so on. Most of them are in prison right now. Narrated the commander of this knighthood. The remaining ones are on the buildings and are present here in the number of 2. There are 6 in total. You will organize your own training, explained Kyle, and decided to leave the office. Leaving already? I thought I'd be around him every day after I joined the order. None of my planned training is being carried out. The protagonist was slightly upset. As soon as the man left, the new member of the order was approached by a girl who was holding the very cat Agnes had found. She spoke so softly that the girl couldn't even hear what she was asking her to do. It was also obvious that the knight was very frightened. People who are left by zombies because of monsters or demons have their hair turn black and their eyes turn red. Because of this, people with black hair and red eyes were often targeted after demons appeared. Just this girl's appearance was just like that. That was the reason why Anne was so timid. That said, the knight thanked Agnes for saving her cat. Your cat's name is Coco? That's a beautiful name. I'm very happy that my colleague's pet is fine, Agnes said in a friendly manner. The protagonist was even lucky enough to get Anne to warm up to her in a matter of minutes. But all the while, Agnes was worried about what the beastly weapon at the end of the room was. Then the sweet-looking Anne walked over to her weapon, grabbed it. This is mine. You can take a look at it. Do you want me to show you how it works? The girl decided to ask, and though Agnes started to refuse, Anne continued to tell about her weapon. There are 5 overlapping blades in the daytime, and it also sprays poison from monsters, so it's capable of shattering even a monster's bone in a second. For some reason, suddenly Anne started talking clearly, so she was also explaining it with crazy eyes. I see. I want a weapon too. Where can I get one? Decided to ask the girl to keep the dialogue going. As it turned out, it could be arranged with a master at the Imperial Armory who could personally create a weapon for the girl. Therefore, they decided to go there together. The source of the development of magical engineering in the Empire is the purple magic stone planted in the lands of the Empire. The first emperor combined his special magic with a mineral that everyone thought was an ordinary stone. He created a magic stone through which the awakened first emperor sealed all the demons under the earth with a single beam of light. 1,000 years passed, and as soon as the demons began to reappear on the surface, the people of the empire began to create weapons out of magic stones. They believe that one day a member of the imperial family will be born, able to harness the power of the first emperor. When the girl walked into the master's office, she immediately told the purpose of her visit. I want to ask you to craft a weapon. Can you do that? The girl asked kindly. The master turned out to be a very pleasant man, so he gladly agreed to help. Of course, please come in. To create an effective weapon from a magical stone with a suitable wavelength, you need to choose one of the stones and take it in your hands. The magic store owner told. When you take the right stone, the palm of your hand will heat up, said Anne quietly. This selection of magical weapons was really interesting, as if the method was by the book. But right now it would be better to be quiet, so the girl decided to go pick any stone she wanted. Once she took 2 different stones in both hands, she didn't feel anything strange. When the girl switched them, nothing changed either. Whichever stone she took, all were cold. The master was surprised, and this made him think. But then another idea quickly came to him, for he did not want to leave his visitor without a new weapon. A couple minutes later, the master brought a chest with a special stone from his den. Then, princess, try this one. A special magic stone used to create weapons for His Majesty's personal guard. The magic weapon master told her. This really surprised the girl. For His Majesty's personal guard? But the weapon created for the magic stone shouldn't harm people. Is it appropriate? The protagonist asked the question with apprehension. As it turned out, it used to be exactly as the girl said, but now they began to create combined weapons. It can be used against both monsters and humans. And there is not even a possibility that this technology will be copied by other countries. These are absolutely accurate ideas. If you take apart the weapon, it will be completely destroyed because of the binding spell. An experienced magic weapon master told him. The master himself was surprised by such a question from the Emperor's daughter. Her Highness Princess Agnes. I thought she was an infantile and cruel rascal, but she turned out to be completely different. She seems to care deeply about the Empire. You can't really know what a person is until you meet them in person. The man thought and wondered at that moment, and the girl also paid attention to the professionalism of this master. Such attention to detail. Don't even have to worry about the weapon being used in other countries, thought the protagonist. As soon as the girl touched the very stone that was in the box, she was immediately burned. Quite a good match in terms of wavelength. You should only experience the heat, but not get burned. In what form do you desire the weapon? Asked the master. Since I'm in a world that combines magic and steampunk, I think a staff and firearm would be a great option, assumed and analyzed the girl. In the end, she opted for a staff-shaped shotgun. Agnes was worried if they could replicate her wish exactly, but it looks great and it's also lightweight. It looks like you're getting used to it quickly. In a real battle, you'll show excellent results. Anne also praised her. Yes, when a task comes up, I can accomplish it. The girl agreed. In truth, all this time, Kyle hadn't even shown his nose, let alone assigned Agnes a task. Anne and Oliver were completely free, but Kyle was very busy with something. Agnes was already bored to death with the man. The man didn't authorize the knight's assignments because he wasn't sure of them. Agnes couldn't give Oliver and Anne a job either, so she decided to do it herself. Anyway, there are no assignments, and people are avoiding her. Agnes is free, but she is also very bored. And one day, when the girl was walking by the fountain, she happened to see a space exclusively for the Order of the White Knights. There were people there, which the girl was excited about. I've always wondered what I should do, and here it is! Even if they notice me, what will they do? I'm a princess after all, Agnes thought and decided to look around. There she saw many familiar faces. Sirius, who is crazy about girls. Diana, the deputy commander of the White Knights. Holly, the Saints fan, and the most interesting character, the Saint Liana, were all there. The girl, after all, saw that very saint for the first time then. In the novella, this girl was competing with Hazel to be the main character. She really did look very beautiful. Are you saying that His Majesty ferried Princess Agnes to support the other 3 orders other than the White Order? Lucky heard the protagonist from the saint. That doesn't make sense. How can His Majesty do that when the White Order and Sir Spencer are trying the hardest? Discussing His Majesty's decision is an insult to the Emperor, Holly declared. Saint Liana is a former commoner. She must not have an easy time with understanding the culture of behavior. There is an explanation for that, thought Agnes at that second. By the way, I heard that Sir Raymond Spencer insulted the princess. Is that true? According to the latest rumors, yes. Suddenly, the boys began to discuss. At that, only Holly answered Liana, and Diana and Sirius's faces expressed disapproval as the protagonist noticed. Holly, on the other hand, remarked that based on what the maid said, the princess was crying and asking them to leave. Unchecked gossip about the imperial family. Since such a topic was being discussed, Diana Agnes could understand. But she didn't know why Sirius, who was fixated on girls, was reacting to Liana like this. Ah, I remembered! Sirius is a ladies' man who is used to flirting. But the exception to him is commoners. The protagonist guessed. It's a shame that this happened, however. It's amazing. I can't believe she's suffering from being hurt by another man. Saint Liana continued to speak out. I think we should stop talking about the princess. Someone might hear. Diana decided to intervene in the conversation, but such a suggestion didn't please the saint much. "What, Lady Wren? Why do you react like this every time I start a conversation? Well, yes, I am a commoner of the people after all. Are you uncomfortable being around me since I wasn't trained in an aristocratic manner of speech?" Determined to manipulate her feelings, Liana then purposely cried. And unsurprisingly, Holly fell for those girlish tears. "Deputy Commander, you're out of line! Please apologize to the saint," ordered Holly. But what kind of feeling is that? Has the saint always been such a character? Surprised Agnes, who was watching from the side. Next to Raymond, she was like an angel. Her ability to discreetly draw everyone's attention to herself is astounding. The girl reborn as a literary heroine marveled, and it looked very attractive. Agnes continued to watch the book's protagonist with rapt attention. The saint who turns out to be an angel is actually a treacherous girl. Why didn't the author reveal such an interesting detail earlier? Agnes marveled. The boys, on the other hand, still couldn't stop arguing. When Sirius tried to put the saint in her place, Holly stood up for the girl. "Did you just raise your voice at the saint?" the man said in a rude tone. Just then, another girl joined them, wondering what the guys were discussing so heatedly. The reborn girl who was listening to them from the side immediately recognized that voice. It came the protagonist of the novel, everyone's first love, the embodiment of the word innocence, Hazel Dev. As it turned out, Hazel had returned from a mission that she had successfully solved. The girl told her that the commander was now at home. They had just arrived, so the girl had come alone. "Aha, that's right. Lady Dev, have you been listening to the gossip? They say Sir Spencer insulted the princess, but what did Spencer himself say?" The saint decided to inquire, but Hazel thought it was just gossip, for the Commodore hates girls who annoy him as much as demons. It was obvious from the saint's reaction that she was not very satisfied with this answer. The argument continued. This spectacle could be watched even with a snack, as watching a love triangle was like watching a movie. "You have traveled a long way and must be tired, lady. I'll walk you out, saint," offered Holly. This character in the novella seemed just a man unrequitedly in love with a saint. But now that Agnes had seen the whole thing with her own eyes, she realized that he was no different from such otaku as in her previous life. As everyone began to disperse, Agnes, who had been following the boys, also decided to go home. The spectacle was over, but when the girl was about to leave, she accidentally stepped her foot loudly on some leaves, causing her to be heard. Sirius immediately ran over to see who was following them. The fact that the boy realized the girl was following them was a big problem. She had heard the gossip to herself. Big trouble could sweat out of that. "Don't tell anyone I heard everything. I don't want to cause more trouble," Princess Agnes asked quietly. The girl also purposely made a detached demeanor so that everyone would think about how badly she was hurt and heartbroken. "So it's true? On the day of your first mission, Sir Spencer, rumor has it that he said he'd rather marry the trash lying on the ground than you, and that you don't belong in the Imperial Palace, but in the gutter." At that moment, Agnes was really surprised at how the story had turned out this way. After all, she had only planned to become a broken-hearted girl. Therefore, the princess immediately began to deny that Spencer was even saying such a thing. "He didn't say such a thing. It's just that day. I don't wish to remember." The reborn girl decided to cop out. Either way, she asked Sirius to keep it a secret. As Kyle walked down the corridor, he met some knights from his order. The boys shared that they had gone to practice, and together they protested the new members' weapons. "Did the princess? I mean Dame Agnes' son go with you? I'll ask just in case. She didn't harass you?" The commander asked the question, to which he received a negative answer. Anne, on the contrary, said that Agnes is a good person, as she is always kind to Coco, Anne's cat. "She even listens to monster stories," told Anne. Honestly, Kyle at that moment thought that the guys just misunderstood. He thought that the princess just couldn't have gotten herself that good. No, wait a minute. Compared to me, those two don't have any position in the palace. They don't care about anything but themselves, realized the man at that moment. Therefore, he thought that perhaps only Oliver and Anne were probably the only ones who could have an unbiased view of what was happening in the palace. Besides, the princess that Kyle George had been watching for several days was behaving differently each time. Well, you will soon see the true face of the princess, even if you don't want to, the Commodore thought, and informed his boys that he had news for them to tell Lady San when they met. I will give her a new assignment. All of the capital's Black Order Knights will go, including me, cunning Commander Kyle declared.